Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Talking to the Dog Benfica podcast, episode number 187. We're here tonight with Cristiano Oliveira
What's going on, everybody?
and Patrick Kendrick is here. What's going on, Patrick?
I'm a little bit chilly. If you are watching on YouTube, you'll see I've got a hood over my head. You can barely make me out, but that's because Portugal decides not to have central heating. So blame Portugal, not me.
Get a hot water bottle, brother. Put it under your butt and sit on
it. All right, on tonight's podcast, we will be looking back at the Estoril game that Benfica played this past weekend. We will also talk briefly about the Oriental game. I got to be honest, I wasn't able to watch due to the time of the game. It was 10 o'clock here in the U.S., but Patrick watched the game, so he's gonna tell us a little bit about the game. And Cristiano's just gonna be Cristiano. That's good enough for us, right?
Right. That's it.
I'll sign up for that.
So Patrick, we haven't seen you in a while. What have you been up to, brother?
You know, it's just same old. Doing the old Benfica, commentating on the Benfica matches at home as and when they come around. Most recently, I did the 6-0 win, which was over Marítimo just in the new year. So that was a nice way to start 2016. Yeah. Unfortunately, I won't be on that Aroca on Saturday because yes, unfortunately, you can blame I've already blamed Portugal, thrown them under the bus for their lack of central heating. Now I'm going to blame the league for their lack of organisation with kickoff time. So it was down as Sunday on the Benfica website, and then they decided to move it to Saturday a few days after I'd made plans. So there you go. I'm in Italy this weekend, so I'll miss that one. But I will be back for the following home game, which I believe is against a team from the north who have just appointed a new manager.
Don't feel bad, Patrick. Alfredo and I most likely missed the game as well due to a snowstorm. So.
Well, I mean, if you're new to the podcast, Patrick is actually the English spoken play-by-play voice of Benfica TV for all Benfica home games. So if you haven't checked out or if you've heard a voice in English, that's Patrick. That's our man, Patrick.
That's either me or Mr. Carlos Bastos, but you can probably tell us apart.
Yeah, the British accent's definitely Patrick, and the Chop accent is Carlos Bastos.
That's me. And rest assured that I do tend to speak a little bit louder and use my voice a bit better when I'm on broadcast. Yeah. It's gone 1 a.m. here, and I live with 4 other people, so my appearances on Benfica podcast tend to have this sort of softly spoken nature to them. But there you go.
Hey, late night radio, baby. Excite a lot of ladies.
With a hood.
Hey, Patrick, but it's a funny thing that you bring up, a funny point about the league disorganization, because this is something that's been going on forever. We have a couple of friends from Planet Benfica, João and Manel, that they travel to Portugal from England all the time to watch Benfica, and they're always waiting to the last minute to book their tickets. It's amazing. Yeah, I can't believe that the league can't get it together.
I think it's terrible. I messaged whoever it was I was messaging on Twitter on that account were telling me, this is probably about a year ago, that they have to, often they just have to gamble on it. And then on a few occasions, the game has been moved to a Monday night, and by then they've booked to come back because they have to work on the Monday, and so often they've missed it, which is absolutely appalling. In the same way, it was appalling how they decided to have that game in Madeira on a Sunday night. I know you've covered this in the previous podcast, and then but things need to be sorted. And in a similar vein, today's match, I know it's only the Taça da Liga, but 3 o'clock kickoff on a Tuesday afternoon doesn't really help anyone. I think they were probably benefited by the fact they're playing against Oriental, and I think it only holds about 4,000, that stadium in Marvila or Chelas, wherever it is, and so you're always going to find 4,000 Benfiquistas even on a Tuesday afternoon who are gonna pack it out. But there are other games that they're doing the same in France as well. I noticed there was French Cup games this afternoon, and no one's happy. I think there's a lot of football being played, but surely we can find weekends or at least evenings to play these games.
Here's a dumb question of the day. Have they officially answered? Have they come out with anything as to why they will not organize this the proper way like everyone else wants them to? Well, I mean, is there reasoning? What's their reasoning?
the Sport TV drives the whole thing.
But what Sport TV can't slot their schedule ahead of time?
No.
No, what it is, I assume, is all of the matches are staggered so that the TV companies can show as many matches as possible. So none of the matches clash. Whereas traditionally, what you would have is you'd probably have 1 or 2 days of fixtures where they play in the evenings, and you'd only then be able to show, say, Benfica at 7:45 on a Tuesday, and either Porto or Sporting would play at the same time, and then the next night you'd show one of the other big three, so to speak. Whereas this way, it enables them to play a game at 3, at 5, at 7, at 9.
Yeah, but they can't schedule that ahead of time. That's what I'm saying. They can't schedule that ahead of time. Porto plays at 5, Benfica plays at 7. There is problem solved.
I think these games probably could be scheduled a bit ahead of time, but it still doesn't really help you too much because you still have to take a day off work. My quarrel with the Taça Liga games is it comes during the week and it's in office hours, which is something we saw with the Marítimo game, even on Epiphany, which was it's a public holiday in some countries. I know it's a public holiday in Italy. It's not in Portugal, and we saw that in the attendance. We had 32,500 against Marítimo. The Luz was half full, and that's because the game was at 7 o'clock on what was just a Wednesday afternoon working day. So I think something needs to be done because I think Benfica need to say something there because they've lost out on half their potential revenue.
Yeah, I don't really care about the Taça Liga. I'm referring more to the Campeonato, the league. Why can't the league come out ahead of time with Sport TV, whoever is in charge of this, and schedule these games properly?
They've always been like that.
I completely agree. And you were speaking about our friends from Planet Benfica before, and I've had to do something likewise. I will, of course, change my flights if need be, but the Porto game, I'm assuming it's going to be a Friday night because Benfica plays Zenit on the Tuesday. So I'm assuming that they'll move the game to the Friday night beforehand against Porto because they played 3 times on a Friday before their Tuesday games in the Champions League group stage. So I've booked a flight for the Saturday. So if they do put the game on the Saturday or Sunday, I'll have to move my flights. But hopefully,
which I must say, I like.
League.
Which, Patrick, I must say, I like that because I know the Premier League gets criticized all the time for not shifting games.
I think it's fantastic. Portugal, France,
Spain,
Italy,
Spain,
they all do. They all make sure their teams have the best possible chance of going far in the Champions League, giving them as many rest days as possible. England won't do it
because of TV schedules. Because they're tied into the TV schedule.
Well, the TV schedule drives everything everywhere. I think
it does. Where the money is where the power is.
Right. But let's start at the beginning, and I know that we got off a little bit on a tangent, but that's okay because this is a real issue. And Patrick, the other thing that I wanted to say, that this is why now you're starting to see more daylight games for Benfica, especially at home, because Benfica can control that, being that the games are going to be on Benfica TV. Before, all the games were at night. You never played in daylight. And now that Benfica TV has the games for Benfica at home, Benfica has decided to schedule these games during the day where people can go and watch it, 5 o'clock or whatever it is. People can go, families could be out. They're not going to be out too late and to go watch these games. So it's definitely an issue that's been going on for too long. And, if you're coming from England, Ireland, or whatever, you schedule a ticket on Ryanair and you're paying $30 for it or whatever it is. Obviously, you got to book those tickets ahead of time. You can't be waiting till the last minute to book those tickets because they're going to be double the price.
Exactly.
So it's very simple. But turning our attention to the Estoril game, which was the first game of the second round, and I'll give you the lineup real quick. As Júlio César, Almeida, Lisandro Jardel, and Eliseu across the back. Feiça and Renato in the middle. Pizzi, Carcel on the wings. Jonas and Jimenez up front. Patrick, I know that we probably have spoken this about this before, but do you think at this point that Feiça is the favorite? I mean, he's been having quite some stellar games. You think that Feiça is now the favorite to star next to Renato?
Absolutely, and I'll mention Samaris in a moment because he played today against Oriental and I wasn't overly impressed. But let's talk about Feiça first and foremost. I think he offers you much more stability defensively. I think he's positionally more disciplined than Samaris. I mean, rather than going over all of the strengths of Faiza's game, I think it just has to come down to a direct comparison with Samaris. The current system that's being played is a classic 4-4-2, which requires a 6 and an 8 in the middle of the park. And the 8 is the guy we all know. It's Renato Sanchez, and that just leaves you with a 6, really. And I think Faiza has been fantastic. He's I don't think it'd being unkind if I call him a bit of a water carrier. I mean that in the kindest sense of the word. He knows his job. He does it very well. His role is to break up the play in front of the back four. Is to stifle opposition attacks. When he gets the ball, he gives it simple. He doesn't do anything over elaborate. He doesn't lose the ball trying to take on players and beating them. And I think he's getting the best out of Renato, because he knows that when the young man goes forward, there's someone in there covering. And he's clearly, I think he's quite vocal as well to him on the pitch as well. I've been very impressed with Faiza, and I think there's no surprise to see that Benfica's upturn in form has really coincided with him in the team. In fact, that's one I'll be looking at before the next broadcast I do, to see Benfica's record with Faiza in the side this season, because I wouldn't be surprised if when he started, if Benfica are unbeaten. I don't remember him starting any of the big games. So that could be quite telling. Or perhaps he started one of the games against. Perhaps he started the Super Cup against Sporting. But no, I've been very impressed with Faiza, and I think the only question mark over team selection there. Rui Vitoria, by the way, named the same starting 11, which he barely does. The only question mark was over who would partner Jonas in attack, and as things stand, Jimenez has that role purely based on the fact that I think he gets more out of Jonas than Mitroglou does, and Mitroglou seems to be having an impact from the bench anyway. But a settled side goes a long way in football, and it's something which is often overlooked in the modern game, with so much being made of shuffling your squad and resting players and giving other team members more playing time, etc. Once you know your best 11, I think that's the most crucial thing that a coach can hit upon. And once they're all available, you pick that team and you go with it. And until you're given a problem through injury or suspension, then you pick that side, or someone's form drops off. And I think we're seeing that now. Then you have to be clever with your changes, which Rui Vitoria was. And but the settled side is what's really behind this great run for Benfica.
And Chris, Patrick brings up a great point, which is the consistency in the lineup, the repeating lineup, and Benfica seems to really be hitting their stride at this point.
Yeah, they've played well of late. I mean, these guys have all seemed to get familiar with one another. I mentioned that multiple times on the podcast. When you play alongside someone, you start to know their movements. You start to know where they like the ball, and it just becomes just one of these things that happens naturally amongst everyone else. And the last thing, I just wanted to say something about what's his name, Feja, right? I think Patrick described him to a T. This is exactly how I would describe him. Right now, man, let's call a spade a spade. He's there to recover balls and intercept play, and he's fantastic at it. He might not be able to do anything else well, but he does that tremendously. And at this stage in the game, he's much better than Samaris is at doing that. So I think that's why he gets the nod, and you don't ask that much of Sanchez defensively, at least. But I got to be honest, I haven't been too happy with Sanchez's play of late. But nonetheless, I think that's why Samaris is thrown in there. I mean, not Samaris, Feja. I'm sorry, I'm off.
I think that defensively, I think that Renato covers a lot of ground. And you pair him up with Faiza, and you got two guys that could cover a lot of ground and that could stop and keep the team balanced on the defensive transitions. That's what I think. But definitely, I think that Faiza seems to be the best pairing for Renato, to give more freedom to Renato also.
And on the familiar thing, I think things will start to get shaken up a little bit here coming up, because you got Nelson coming back, you got Luizão coming back, you have the addition of Grimaldo, who's going to have to play at some point. And if he impresses and if he's half as good as everybody says he is, he'll be getting plenty of playing time. Toto Salvi will be back at some point. So I think the lineup will be shaped up a little bit. But right now, I mean, like I say multiple times, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree with you. But Patrick, it's something that we got to feel encouraged about is that the team is. It looks like it has been putting some consistent performances, and now we got these guys that were key players in the beginning of the season for us. There were guys that were outstanding, such as Semedo, such as Gaetan. Luizão is also on the verge of coming back, if I'm not mistaken. But it's very encouraging to see that these guys are on the fringes now and that could step in and take this team to the next level.
Yeah, and that's going to be down to the coach to decide as and when he introduces these guys coming back in. Semedo played today, and he played 90 minutes, which is very encouraging. So there was didn't seem to have suffered any ill effects from coming back from the injury. It's always slightly concerning when it's a knee because you never really know with knee injuries. But from I don't want to jinx him at all, but from what I saw today in the cup, yes, he was very rusty, but he got through 90 minutes and he didn't seem to show any psychological damage from that injury in terms of he was playing exactly the same game that he played before. So you would think Andre Almeida is one that might lose his spot as and when Semedo was fit to come in, but he's improved in recent weeks. I had to say I really thought he was one of the weaker members of the Benfica squad. But I thought Estoril was one of his better games. After a slightly nervy 10 minutes, I thought he really impressed against Estoril and put in some fantastic crosses.
Yeah,
most of Benfica's attacking play against Estoril came from wide areas, came from crosses, which I know Steve has mentioned several times this season as to it being one of Benfica's few ways of really breaking down opposition teams. But it seems to be working, and I think a lot is to be said for the fact that Benfica came from behind. That was the first time that they'd come from behind away from home this season to win a game.
Yeah.
So that's proof that this side does have character, proof that the fans are also starting to trust the manager more than anything else. I think early on we saw, Jesus was a fantastic manager, 6 seasons, 3 titles, etc. It's only natural that the fans are going to be slightly wary of a new man coming in, and the fans were sceptical, and I think occasionally their anxiety transferred to the players, particularly in the early weeks of the season. Just going back to the reverse fixture, beating Estoril 4-0, but it was a bit of a misleading result because for 70 minutes Benfica didn't really offer much. So I think all of that in the early part of the season, combined with the fact that then Benfica fell several points behind the leaders, meant that Rui Vitoria really had to win over the fans. I think he's starting to do that a bit more. I know that there are still some skeptics, one of whom is among us tonight. But I do think that that was a real showing of character and maturity. The fact that Benfica were able to come back from 1-0 down at halftime, knowing as well that Sporting had dropped points. So double pressure really, and they responded with flying colours.
Yeah, Chris, Patrick brings up a great point, which is we were down 0-1 at the 12th minute early in the game, and did the team finds a way to turn this around in a very difficult pitch? These pitches are usually smaller. As soon as Estoril scored, they had men behind the ball, so it was very difficult. Do you feel that these games like this, where the team rallies, can be a turning point for the season, or something that catapults the season into a good momentum?
Absolutely, it's only going to lift morale. It's going to give the team confidence. Anytime they trail in a game now, it's especially when you do it on a difficult pitch like that. Guys are going to start believing in themselves because they've done it before. So it's only going to lift the confidence. And they were very unlucky to not score. I think, what's his name? Jonas got one off the post early on, and then a terrible mistake by my boy Lisandro, who I've been doing nothing but raving about for the last, I don't even know. Even before he got loaned out to Getafe, I've always liked him. So I've been raving about this guy now. He's, terrible mistake by him, but nonetheless, the team was able to pick it up, and it was only a matter of time. They kept putting pressure on him, not creating the greatest of chances, but Estoril was content with defending and allowing space to Benfica and allowing them the ball. And it was a matter of time. I got to praise Rui Vitoria for finally making substitution. I believe right at halftime, correct? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
That definitely paid dividends.
Right at the halftime, he substituted Mitroglou for Jimenez. And Patrick, here's the difference between these two players. Jimenez is obviously a guy that's more mobile, a guy that stretches the attacking front. And Mitroglou is more of a box guy. He has a smaller range of movement within that attacking area. And when Vitoria looks at the game and the way it was going, being down 0-1, he knew that Estoril was going to come back and they were going to pack the back. So it only made sense for Vitoria to give away Jimenez, to sit Jimenez and bring Mitroglou, who's going to be a presence in a box. Because now the field is not stretched for Jimenez to look for those empty spaces to make those runs. So it only made sense for Vitoria to make this change.
Absolutely, yeah. I think Jimenez, we saw it in the Maritimo game. He's burned a few opportunities, but he's very good when you play at home because the pitch is bigger and because the surface is very good. Jonas can pull into a pocket of space and then play through balls for the likes of Pizzi, who benefited with 2 goals. And the same thing with Jimenez. He can run onto the ball at pace, and that's when you can really exploit it. When you get him travelling over 20, 30 yards in behind the defence. On a smaller pitch like that, terrible service, Mitroglou is exactly the go-to man. Traditional target man, plays with his back to goal. You can get him as often as possible level with the edge of the box, and just by holding the ball up for 3 or 4 seconds, you can then bring that allows 2 or 3 players to get forward in support on the attack, and it was the fullbacks really getting forward, less so Eliseu, but more so Andre Almeida, and it was from his crosses that Benfica really started to get joy, and then you can get, it also gives time for the midfield runners to make late breaks into the box and score goals, and we saw that with Pizzi's goal as well. Mitroglou technically is a fantastic player, and it's not something he's given much credit for. It's bizarre because he's a target man who is good in the air, yet not fantastic in the air. He's not 6'5". He's not someone you're thinking, oh, you lump it in there and he's gonna win a towering header like Andy Carroll or someone like that. He's got 2 very good feet. He's technically very good. You can give him any sort of ball, and he will control it, and he'll wait, and then he'll pick the right pass. He's not the quickest, but for that situation, with Benfica needing to get more of a foothold in the game, it was exactly the right choice. And what I like about Rui Vitoria is, unlike a lot of managers who tend to wait for the 60-minute mark to see if miraculously things are going to change for 15 minutes over the second half, he rarely does that. He often makes substitutions for the start of the second half, and that gives you an extra quarter of an hour to play with. And I have to say, I've been really impressed with the way he uses substitutes.
Yeah, he's definitely. It's been a couple games now where he's done the right reads and he's substituted the right guys in, and it's worked for him. He's reading it. He's having a very good read on the game, and he's putting in the guys that the team needs to go that extra step. So I got to give. I mean, we shit on him all the time, but we got to give him a little bit of credit.
He got lucky. Come on. Guy gets lucky one time, and all of a sudden the guy's tremendous. Come on.
Chris, I know that you're not a big Jimenez fan, but I think that Jimenez plays a lot better with Jonas than Mitroglou does, and for the reason that he stretches out the defense, he pulls guys out, he goes and gets the ball on the sides, he opens up the middle for Jonas, and I think that a lot of people tend to overlook that.
Now, well, guys, listen. His problem is that he can't put the ball in the back of the net. Okay, that's his biggest problem, because everything else, he's like another Lima. He does all the little dirty work for Jonas and allows Jonas to free up and be on his own and, roam around and do what he wants to do, and then he comes in and clap, scores. And so I think we all criticize him because he's got terrible feet. He tries to fake out 10 guys at once. I don't understand why when he can't do one. You know what I mean? But he does, he's tremendous. The guy is always running, man, from the first minute to the 90th minute. He's got a huge heart. It's just too bad that he doesn't have the ability of a Mitroglou. And I got to say, I'm not that crazy about Mitroglou. I don't think, and I'm sorry, Pat, I don't think he's that talented. I just think that compared to Jimenez, he is that talented.
Yeah, so what you're trying to say is Jimenez is like the greeters you see at Walmart. they're good for nothing just to stay in front of the door and say hello to people.
No, not really. He, like I said, he does the dirty work, man. He puts pressure. The guy does not
He does
stop.
run a whole lot.
He does not stop. And again, I know some of you are gonna call me up or hit me up on Twitter and say, "Wait a minute, you praising this guy for the same thing you criticize that shit in the World Cup against the United States for recovering a ball at midfield when everybody was praising about it." I said that's not what a striker should be doing. So I know it's kind of like the same thing, but this is totally different. Okay, in my opinion, we're talking about a whole game rather than just a series of plays. I think Jimenez. I don't know. I'm not trying to be too critical on the guy, but I just don't see how Benfica paid $9 million for 50% of his pass. I mean, I don't think he's worth that.
I think we know. Why Benfica paid $9 million for 50% of his pass, but that's for another day.
Can we just agree to dismiss all deals we do with Atletico?
What are these guys? Just send each other money? Like, look, I'm overpaid for this guy, then you give it back to me by overpaying for this guy, and then we'll pay for another guy, give it back. Is that what it is? They're just repaying each other, just tossing the same money back and forth, like money washing?
It's a nice way of saying money laundering and paying commissions and this and that.
Mas já não morreu o Gil, bro.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Yeah, Gil. Yeah, that's who it was.
That's Futra's son's godfather.
That's right.
And by the way, Patrick, I know you speak your Italiano or whatever, and that dude, Tancredi Palmieri, whatever, he thinks he's like a football encyclopedia, and so he tossed this question out on Twitter, and everybody was asking him top 5 players and whatever. You throw out the team, and it'll tell you the top 5 players in the history of your club. This guy had the audacity to mention like Diego Forlan, Sergio Aguero, Fernando Torres. And he also mentioned 2 old-timers, and they might have been good. I don't know. But I know that those other 3 that I just mentioned, I know this is the Benfica podcast, but I just have to throw this out there. I know that those other 3, at least at Atletico Madrid, were not better than Paulo Futre. Paulo Futre, to me, is the greatest player in that team's history. And this guy wants to act like a soccer encyclopedia. He doesn't even put him in his top 5. Get out of here, bro.
Maybe that was before his time. Maybe it was before his time.
No, because the 2 old-timers he mentioned were before my time. I mean, we're talking about 60s. So you can't. Come on, dude. Whatever. I just want to throw that out there. But yeah, those deals are crazy, man. Those deals I don't understand. And then Benfica. So Benfica pays him $9 million for 50% of Jimenez, $14 million for Pizzi. Hey, they're in a giving mood.
Not to mention the deal with Roberto.
Yo, I forgot about that. Wow, Roberto, the highest paid goal. And then the guy was tremendous for Olympiacos. The guy had 2 games of his life before he came to Benfica. He was pretty good. Then he got to Benfica and he became a frangueiro. Then after that, he only had 2 good games in his career, and they were both against Benfica in the Champions League for Olympiacos. I mean, the guy made like 16 saves in a game. He was tremendous.
Just on a side note, I don't know if there are any gamblers out there on the Benfica podcast, but if there are, bet your mortgage, remortgage your house, and bet on Marítimo to get a sending off at the Dragão on Sunday.
Yeah.
No,
15 red cards in the season.
Isn't it like 16 and 18 games?
No, they don't need to get a sending.
3 against União the other day, and the worst thing was, having got 3 in stoppage time, a guy was booked for an elbow, and then he argued with the referee for 2 minutes straight in the hope of getting a second yellow card. There's something very untoward going on there.
Patrick, you already missed the boat, man. The fix was in against the Nacional. That's where the fix was in. They knew they were going to play against Porto next, so you automatically take yourself out of that equation.
Yeah, I guess
that's where the fix was put in, not against Porto. They're going to play.
But they've been getting 2 sendings off every week. It's crazy. I just can't fathom it. There must be something involved in that.
They're all in a rush to go to the Ronaldo Museum. That's what it is.
It's the second Ronaldo Museum reference you've made two weeks in a row, bro.
Yeah, well,
are they paying you?
It's better than rubbing it with like number 10 and Messi on it. You know what I mean? At least I just mentioned them. I'm not painting it.
Anyway, an important win for Benfica coming from behind and squeezing out that second goal in the 68th minute by Pizzi. 78th minute, the lights went out, as is already customary every season in these small pitches in Portugal. But everything came back like 2 minutes later. It was only one of the towers. But the biggest thing right here, and the biggest story, is Benfica closing the gap to Sporting in 2 games, and now Benfica only depends on themselves to win the championship. So if they win out the rest of the games and they beat Sporting, that's a championship. But there's a lot of championships still to go, so we're not going to get ahead of ourselves. But it's good to be in a position where we're in control of our destiny for sure.
Yeah, so, absolutely. I mean, y'all, I'll tell you, man. I had a conversation. Patrick and I actually had a conversation about how confident we were about this team and possibly getting the 3. And I tell you, I didn't expect them to be 2 points away from Sporting, not the way that they've played all season. And now you're 2 points away from Sporting. Like you said, our destiny is in our hands, and we're getting a bunch of players. And we're not just talking about a bunch of scrubs. We're talking about 18 players that are going to come and only add quality to this team. And so,
how many players?
A boatload. I don't know. What did I say?
I thought you said 18.
No, 18. A bunch of 18 players.
I got you.
A-listers.
I got you. No,
yeah,
it's encouraging.
Sorry, bro.
It's encouraging.
Yeah,
it's encouraging that those guys are in the wings. Yeah, absolutely. But, go ahead.
Bye. Follow. I'll ask later.
I was gonna break here for Nelson's halftime headlines.
I wanted to ask Patrick a question. I mean, you're always asking questions. I want to ask Patrick. Will Luizão possibly coming back in the next week or so? Who do you subtract from the center back pairing? Is it Lisandro?
He's still got a little bit. I think maybe 3 weeks, maybe.
Okay, when he comes back.
Based on what I saw today, based on what I saw against Estoril, I think Lisandro, unfortunately, has had 2 of his worst games of the season back-to-back. He was not good against Oriental today, admittedly alongside an inexperienced Lindelof, who didn't really do his first-team opportunities any favours either. I didn't think he should have impressed a bit more, really, given the opportunity he was presented with. It's tricky. I think you've got to go with the defensive pairing that won you the last championship. To be honest, I would have said stick with the same 2 players on form. I've been very impressed with Lisandro. I've praised him a lot. But there's a lot to be said of having the captain in the side. It's a tricky one because I think on form, I mean, maybe that's just a blip for Lisandro. On form this season, Lisandro and Jardel have been arguably the strongest area of the pitch in recent weeks in terms of the pairing. The most settled area. We've seen the sort of Fazer Samaris thing alongside Renato, who himself didn't start there at the beginning of the season. They've been pretty settled since the Luizão injury, and but the difficulty you have is he's the captain. He's been there for a long time, and it's only right that he be restored to the team. And in an ideal world, you say, well, the other guy's in possession of the shirt. He's going to have to wait his time. But given Luizão's age,
his status,
34, his status, etc., I think once he's 100% fit, he will come back into the side. And for Lisandro, unfortunately, that might be a bit too late because the January transfer window might have gone. And
see, that's what I was waiting for you to finish your answer to ask you the $1 million question. So for Lisandro, I'm pretty sure this is being communicated to you. I'm pretty sure your agent is in the ears of the club and trying to find out what's going on. I mean, do you jump ship and possibly go to Florence and join Fiorentina? I mean, because I'm sure the guy doesn't want to sit the bench.
No, but I guess you hope that move comes around again in the summer. And having played a lot for the first half of the season, he may still think that he can. It's the difficulty he has is that Jardel's the only one that seems to play the left centre back role. So it's not like it's 2 guys for 3 spots. It's 2 guys for 1 spot really.
Yeah.
That's the difficulty he has. But I think the injury the recovery time for Luizão will work against Lisandro because I think January will have been and gone by the time Luizão comes back in, and only then will we know how much Lisandro is going to play. But if he doesn't play again for much of the season, once Luizão comes back, I think I'd be very surprised to still see him at the club come the summer.
Wasn't Luizão back at practice this week, though?
Well, he might be practicing, but he's going to still get the cast on.
Well, he might have a soft cast. He could play with a soft cast. He just can't play with a hard one.
Yeah, I don't know.
And from what I've read, again, I'm not at practices, but from what I read, he was back at practice this week.
Yeah. Here's a couple things that I wanted to bring up in regards to Lisandro. For one, it's not guaranteed he's going to go to Fiorentina and be a starter. I'm not familiar with Fiorentina's team, but they've been doing pretty good. I mean, I'll be hard pressed to think that he's going to go and he's going to walk into that starting 11. That's number one.
Well, number two, I don't think a club's going to go into the January transfer window to buy a backup. And number three, I don't think he'd move to go be a backup as well, unless they're doubling or tripling his salary. But if the guy wants to play, I don't think he's going to go sit on the bench over there. For that, he'll just stay where he's at and comfortable.
Yeah, and the other thing is that Patrick has mentioned these last two games as being some of his worst performances. And coincidentally, this is when the buzz all started talking about the Fiorentina move, that his agent was in Florence, and ever since then, it seems to have unsettled Lisandro.
Yeah. So, yeah, it looks that way, but we'll see what happens.
All right.
I mean, I hope he stays.
Yeah, I hope so too. I think that the future is through him. So
it definitely is not through the Lindelof.
No. We're going to take a short break here for Nelson's halftime headlines. We'll be right back. All right, and we're back with the second half of the Benfica podcast and talking to the Benfica podcast. With me tonight are Cristiano Oliveira and the voice of Benfica's English play-by-play, Patrick Kendrick. Patrick is actually in disguise today. No, he's not in the North Pole. He's in the downtown Lisbon area, but it is very cold. And as a Brit, he's not used to this.
Bro, I'm pretty sure it's not as cold as it is here, bro. So man up, Patrick.
Chris, you've got central heating is all I'm going to say. But no one warned me about this before I moved to Portugal. 10 glorious months a year and then 2 months of shivering. The worst time of day is between 5 and 8 in the evening. At least this time I can get under the covers and you can justify that. You can't really go to bed at 5 in the afternoon and just lie under the covers. So,
you know what my mom used to tell me when I was a little kid and I was cold?
What's that?
That was salt. You warm up.
That is what I do actually. I tend to go out
some jumping jacks.
But it's when you go out of the house and come back in, it's amazing how much warmer you feel. It's often warmer outside the house than it is in, and just the fact that you get moving. It's once you set around the house, it really gets to you. But there you go. It's going to be all of January and all of February, I think. So.
All right. And Patrick is actually Patrick's life has allowed him to watch today's Benfica game, which happened here at 10 o'clock in the morning here in the United States. And anyone that's on this side of the world, Benfica played Oriental, and we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys that usually don't play this game.
Exactly.
So, I mean, at Oriental, I watched a little bit. The pitch didn't look all that great. Smaller pitch. You got a team that's highly motivated, playing the game of their lives. Wasn't going to be easy for Benfica, but we ended up pulling it from Talisca. I don't know what that was. There was a shot that hit the ground, and I have no idea what's going on. Patrick, some thoughts on the game in general?
Yeah, I thought Talisca took his goal pretty well. So as you said, nine players who aren't regular starters. Which is slightly misleading because Samadi started and Mitroglou started, players who, Samadi started all of last season, as we know, and could feasibly be a first-team regular for Benfica as well. Mitroglou is still having that internal battle with Jimenez, but the two that have been starting regularly in recent weeks were Medi Carcel and Lisandro Lopez, and then I have to say the man that really stood out for me was Edison, which perhaps tells you a bit about how the game went. You'd expect Benfica to dominate against the side from a lower league, but it wasn't necessarily the case. Edison pulled out 3 very fine saves.
Massive.
Which, notably in the first half, Talisca trying to turn on the edge of his own box without looking over his shoulder, losing the ball, having his pocket picked, and then the striker actually I thought did really well on what was a terrible pitch. If you saw the Estoril pitch, this was twice as bad. A real potato cabbage patch, and as the striker went through, he rolled his studs over it to go round Edison, who was out really sharply off his line, and thrust out his right arm at full stretch and won the ball. It was one of those where if you're not really quick, you take the guy out. It's a penalty and you get sent off. So that was the save I was impressed with most.
Yeah, the foot save too.
There was another couple in the second half, exactly. one of which was with his foot as he was diving away to his right. He stayed up just long enough to get it with his trailing leg, and then late on a shot came off Lisandro and was spinning, and he got back very quickly to smother that. It bounced awkwardly and it was spinning and kept a clean sheet. It was fully deserved. There are a couple of handling errors. I'd put that down to perhaps the pitch as well, but in terms of and nerves as well, exactly, yeah. But in terms of what he's there to do, I always try and judge goalkeepers on shot stopping first. If they can't do that, they're not going to make it. If they, I think he's only 22, Edison. If the shot stopping is there, everything else can be improved upon. He's got the stature. He looked confident. I mean, he's pulling out these saves. It was a really big performance from him. And
he's nice. I like him, Pat. My concern with him is he's got no feet whatsoever. He's terrible with his feet.
which is massively important at a big club like Benfica, and I think that's when Julio Cesar really is.
I'd have to see a little bit more.
World class, but no, from what I saw of the saves, that's what I'm judging on today. Really impressed because that scoreline was by no means guaranteed. Talisca got the goal. He offers something. He started the game. He's frustrating as hell. But in terms of finishing, I don't think, besides Jonas, I think Talisca is arguably the best finisher Benfica have got, from outside the box. He has this. He also struck the bar, by the way, late on. But he curled this shot in. The ball was rolled back to him, and he's bobbling away, and he kept over it, kept his knee over the ball, steered it into the corner, took it really well, actually.
Yeah.
As he was slipping, by the way.
Absolutely, and as for some of the other players, I think we saw how good Medi Carcela's technique is, because on a pitch like that, you really start to notice who can control the ball and who can't. The same cannot be said for Gonçalo Guedes. It was another worrying performance from him, if you ask me.
Send him out on loan.
He came off after 45 minutes, and there's nothing I've seen from Gonçalo Guedes that makes me think that he can have an impact on this Benfica side, even off the bench at the moment. He's looking very out of sorts. I don't know if that was a false dawn with what we saw earlier in the season.
His confidence is shot at this point. He's got no confidence.
Send him out on loan.
So that was disappointing. And Samaris did not have a good game. Booked as usual, and the challenge he was booked for was just absolutely needless. You could see it a mile off that he was going in. He wasn't going to get to the ball, and committing in that way, he was always going to get booked. And then he seems to have no filter, Samaris. Once he gets booked, he doesn't change the way he's playing. He doesn't seem to have that intelligence at times to just take a step back and say, okay, I can stay on my feet here. I can jockey the guy. I'll point him into trouble. I'm going to run him into an area where I've got a teammate who can bail me out. And I think that's probably why FaZe is in the side, because with Samaris, you know that after 5 or 6 games he's going to be suspended anyway, and that breaks up the rhythm of the team. So Lindelof, as I said, missed opportunities. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Do you think that that Samaris is perhaps a little frustrated that he's lost his starting job?
I think he's very frustrated. I think you can see it etched on his face. He was very keen to impress today, and that translated into him going into even more challenges than he would normally. I often think that he tries to win the ball back too often. So, some of the best players just know that when to read the danger, and how many times do you see it? I was watching Napoli against Inter earlier on. How many times do you see it when a player's in trouble, an attacking player in the opposition half, he's over towards the touchline with no support as well, back to the defender, and the defender gives him a cheap free kick. And that's when the best players just wait and wait and wait, and they find a way of getting the opposition player to lose the ball. They don't even necessarily need to win it themselves. And I think Samaris is just overly keen to try and win it back or to try and impress today. And that's definitely from the anxiety of having lost his spot and wanting to say, hey, look, this is me, this is what I can offer, etc. But I think FaZe is more tactically disciplined, and occasionally, believe it or not, despite probably not having the same range of ability as Samaris, he's arguably a more intelligent footballer.
Samaris has regressed to the player that I did not rate at all at the beginning of last season. He seems to be that same player all over again. But to me, biggest news of the day, I mean, obviously aside from the fact that Semedo was back was the fact that we had a Jurisic sighting, guys. 72 minutes. The guy's still alive.
Window shop.
The guy's been suspended, hated on, fined, made, had to go to church, confess to Padre João, and now he's back. There was a sighting. Where's my boy Taarabt? It gives me confidence. That maybe it could happen for Taarabt as well.
Yeah, Jurisic was pretty quiet. Chris, you were talking about Grimaldo earlier. I don't know what's behind that because Silvio played at left back, and not only did Silvio play, he captained the side. So
it was just a token. It was like a thank you for being with us for a while. You're not gonna play now at all,
But
so
surely, if Grimaldo was going to be introduced this season, then they would play him in a game like this before starting him straight away in a league game.
Well, Steve thought that he was going to play this game. I did too. But I
would be very surprised if we see him in the league at all this season.
It's only fair that Silvio got it because, after all, Silvio's been sitting there waiting for his chance. So I think that if all of a sudden he leapfrogs Silvio into the lineup, albeit on the left side, I think that is a huge blow. And not to mention that Silvio wore the captain's armband today.
I think, listen, honest to God, I think Grimaldo will play. I think, to me, this was just one of those loyalty things from Rui Vitoria. The guy's put in his hard work, and he didn't want to disrespect him by bringing a 20-year-old kid who hasn't been here. Because, let's be honest, if these guys stay healthy, right, where the hell Silvio going to play? You got Papsico on the left, you got Semedo on the right, and then you got Almeida who'll rotate. He'll be the first choice off the bench. And if Grimaldo starts getting playing time, Silvio was never going to see the field. So I think this was kind of like, here you go. Play against Oriental because you might not get many minutes the rest of the season. Grimaldo will add a lot to us. He'll play. He'll get his minutes. You won't. Here's the armband. Thank you for your hard work and dedication. Thank you for fighting back through injuries. But I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get you many more minutes after this. So here's your playing time.
I'm telling you this based on what I've seen. I've never seen Grimaldo play. I don't know a lot about him. So I'm not going to set any store by this player at all until I've seen him play. Based on what I have seen, as long as he's fit, Eliseu will start in the league at left back, and that is the way it should be. Portugal international, that's the way it will be. This guy Grimaldo, I think, has been brought in with a view to next season, knowing that they're probably not going to keep Eliseu for a third straight season at left back. I cannot see them playing a 22-year-old Nelson Semedo at right back, and I think he's 20. This Grimaldo is. Yes. I cannot see that happening when you're chasing the league title. This is the time for experience, and left back Eliseu offers you enough. I think it'll be important that Eliseu and Gaetan are there together playing when for the Sporting game. I don't think it's going to happen in time for the Porto game. I don't know when Gaetan is officially going to be back, but that's going to be important but more important than anything is going to be that right hand side, because that's where Sporting did all their damage with Jefferson. And
fair
Brian
point,
Ruiz.
Pat. Fair points, and I'm not discrediting anything you're saying, but I think Grimaldo will play. Yeah. I think he'll play at some point because for that they would have just waited for him to be free, and he could have signed with us for free in June. I mean,
I don't know, Chris. How many players have Benfica signed who haven't then gone straight into the team?
Yeah, but that's lack of talent, bro. Or late nights in Lisbon.
All I'm saying, guys, is until I've seen this guy play, I can't ever say he's going to come into the team if I've never seen him play. He can have the biggest reputation in the world, but until I've seen him play, I'm not going to say that someone's going to be in the team.
I'm right there with you.
Somebody
again. I don't think. I think Benfica would have saved €1 million, and I think he'll play. Again, I don't know if he'll be.
They didn't save €1 million on the Serbian kid they just brought in, did they?
Oh, come on! The guy's gonna be fantastic. They're gonna sell him to Genoa in like 4 years.
4 years. Next window.
Hey, didn't they buy? They signed Marçal. Not Marçal. Who's the guy they signed? The left back from Marítimo.
Javan was another case.
Before the pilot landed in Sacarneiro or whatever it is, he was already on his way to Turkey. He was like, all right, connect the flight. Here you go. Peace.
No, but Marçal also.
Marçal. Well, at least he came to the North American tour.
I think that Patrick brings up great points with the Portuguese international. My gut feeling tells me that Grimaldo is going to be starting in February. He's going to be part of the team in February, and some of the logic, if you will, I think that if Semedo comes on the other wing, I think at this point, if Rui Vitoria sticks with Eliseu after Semedo comes back, is only to give balance to the defense, as Semedo is more prone to attack, while Eliseu could stay back because he doesn't have the stamina. So that's another point there, another logical point. But I think that from what I've seen, and please, everybody send videos of Grimaldo's skills on YouTube to Patrick. From what I've seen, he's talented enough, and he could bring a lot to Benfica. Now, how fast will he assimilate Rui Vitoria's ideas and what Rui Vitoria wants from a left back? That's a whole different story, and maybe that's where the trick will lie. So we'll see.
He'll play. I don't know if he's going to take over for Papaseco, but I think he will play He'll play a role sometime this season.
Yeah. So
Patrick.
So if you want to send in your questions, we're going to get into questions in a little bit. But right now, make sure you tag Benfica Podcast, hashtag Benfica Podcast on your questions. But right now, we're going to get into the Aroca game, which comes up this Saturday at 6:30 local. There's that daytime game. Well, at least a little bit of the game will be during the daytime. In the first round, Patrick and Chris were at Estádio de Aveiro to see Benfica's first loss of the season against
in the rain.
And Aroca is currently 8th, so they're having quite a good campaign. 5 wins, 9 ties, and 4 losses is their overall record. Only 4 losses in their overall record. Benfica has lost 3 games. Away, 1 win, 7 ties, 1 loss. So that's they sure do tie a lot of games, Patrick. What do you think?
They do, but I don't think anyone is going to look. There's 2 teams who can take points off Benfica at home, and we know who they are. And one of them already has. So I think Benfica will win. I think they're in a rich vein of form, scoring goals at home. They've been fantastic. I mean, that's where the bulk of the goals have come. And the players are going to be absolutely furious that they know that had they won that game, all right, you know, you can talk conditionals all you want, you know. We used to say, my grandma used to say, if ifs and ands were pots and pans, there'd be no need for tinkers. But you get what I you get what I mean.
Grandma Kendrick.
You get what I mean. There's no point in saying, had Benfica won in Aveiro, they'd be top now, because that's not the way things work out in football. Because had they won in Aveiro, maybe they wouldn't have won in Madeira, etc. So the players are going to be absolutely raging because that performance was dreadful. You know, the performance against Sporting, it was like a perfect storm. Benfica played very badly. Sporting played very well. That's why you got a freak result like that, 3-0. Win for Sporting. Sorry everyone for bringing that up, but my point is Benfica were dreadful in Aveiro. Chris will tell you that as well, and I think a lot of that is down to new manager, hectic. You know, very good for you guys, them going over to North America, but in hindsight, commercially that was very good. In terms of the football side, it was a disastrous decision to go over to North America.
Hey Pat, those were the days where us Benfiquistas craved for Nelson Andrade, or whatever his name is. What was the Brazilian?
Vitor Andrade.
That was, my God,
yeah,
this guy on the field.
We were calling for him to come on, and he did come on. You're right. Yeah.
You know, he doesn't
How
even
times
play.
have changed. Yeah, he's in the B team. Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
yeah, just so you guys know, and just to reinforce the point of how times have changed, I'll give you the lineup that played against the Aroca that day. Júlio César, Semedo, Luizão, Lisandro, and Eliseu across the back, so nothing new there. Face actually played defensive midfield. Pizzi was in front of him. Ola John was on the right, Gaetan was on the left, and it was Jonas and Mitroglou. I think at that point Jimenez wasn't in yet.
Yeah, Ola John. No, Jimenez came in very late, and he had a nice easy tap in front of goal, and he shanked it. And like, remember, Pat? You were like, yo, I haven't seen much of him, but if that's the best he can do, he's in trouble. And I think we called it. And yeah, they made an early change. Ola John came off for Vitor Andrade, who had done his thing against Moreirense the week before, I believe, right? Right?
He had.
Yeah, Moreirense. Yeah,
Estoril.
Whatever. It was, yeah, Moreirense was the following week.
The following week, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so but those crazy days, and I'm afraid I know you're gonna kill me because we're on to like the next target. But I forgot to mention this before, and how much fun was it to see today playing against Benfica for Oriental, the Benfica pretty boy of the next Benfica future superstar Bruno Aguiar. Yeah. Recall that? I just wanted to mention.
He's a big Benfiquista. I follow him on Instagram.
Yeah, it was when I seen him being subbed because I wasn't even aware that the guy was on the pitch.
34 years old.
Yeah, but I was like, wow, I remember this guy was the savior, Pat. That was the savior.
He was part. He was part of Benfica's championship with Trapattoni. Then he moved to Scotland, and he had a good successful
with the Rangers,
career.
right?
No, Hearts.
Hearts. Yes, Hearts.
And he's a Benfiquista through and through, and we often see those guys in functions and at the VIP lounge. But I'm sure it was quite an eventful day for him, having to play his club where he was formed and where he's got great memories. So.
Yeah, I want to throw that out there. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But just looking at this lineup, we could see how, even though there's a lot of the same guys still there, we could see how far the team has come since that second game of the season.
Yeah, there's been an evolution. Ola John then went out on loan, didn't he? I think where is he? Reading now, I believe.
Reading, yeah.
Ola John.
Yo, tell us the joke, bro. I want to laugh too.
No. Ola John posted a picture on Instagram. He went to a Kevin Hart show in England, and he got to meet Thierry Henry.
There you go. Perhaps perhaps he gave Thierry some tips.
Perhaps.
And how to eat francesinhas or something.
But Ola John, lest we forget, scored in the Taça Liga final last season. So that would have been a good time to bow out rather than leaving us with the memories of his performance in Aveiro, which was not good. But no one played well that night.
Well, they did. Lisandro did.
Yeah, okay, Lisandro did, but I know Chris really enjoyed Pizzi's performance. It was very proactive, dynamic.
Yo, Pat and I sat there and we counted how many forward passes and how many backwards, and it was like 42-1.
You told me this story before.
Yeah, I know. But I never said it on air.
I don't know if he told it on air or not, but there you go.
All right, let's get into our questions. And for those of you guys that are watching us live on YouTube, like I said, hashtag Benfica Podcast, and we'll try to answer the questions as best as we can. The first question, this is actually something that I had.
No, Neil. No.
No,
Neil.
It's not Neil. It's from.
Oh, he didn't ask the question yet. Okay. I was just
from Peter 1678, and he actually put up a post. And after Mitroglu's goal, I guess the goal that gave us the tying against Estoril, the media basically published or reported that Mitroglu's clause is at 7 million. Question for you guys:
that ain't look good.
You play that clause? Do you play that? Do you pay that clause and keep Mitroglu?
If I can sell Jimenez back for 9 million, I would take Mitroglu and take the 2 million profit. To be honest, I would. I don't know what Chris would do.
Chris,
no, I wouldn't. I would. I mean, listen, dude. If you could sell Jimenez, I don't know. I don't even. I'm not even gonna try to be funny.
Basically, the question is Mitroglu
worth the $7 million option? I would, honest to God, I would shop around and see what else I could get. Not that he's a bad player, not that I wouldn't like to have him, but get a little bit younger and a guy a little bit more athletic. I would like to do that because let's not forget, Jonas is in his 30s. Mitroglu's getting up there. Jimenez has no future. At least I don't believe so. Not at Benfica, I should say.
Can we get Carlos Vela for 7 million?
Oh man, see, if I could do that, I would absolutely. What were you saying, Pat? You're like, what? What happened? Did I say something wrong?
No, I thought Mitroglou was 27, but I'm going to check
Yeah.
that
No,
now.
Okay, that's close to 30. He's getting up there. That's close to
He's
30.
dude. That from 30, that's still 3 years. Now he's
Oh,
around
yo,
that age.
wait. He's closer to 30 than he is to 20. Okay,
He's
round
around,
it up.
but 27 is still at his prime, bro. He's still
No,
got a
he-
couple
It'll be
years.
it'll be 28 in March.
There you go.
So
Stop, value, yo. Nah, but all joking aside, I would like to get younger. Look, Vela's probably like 25 right now, or 24, 25. But if I could get, it depends. Again, I would like to see what else is out there.
Yeah. So I guess this answers Neil's question. If we had to choose one, Mitroglou or Jimenez, and you guys both said that you would sell Jimenez and buy Mitroglou. So that's the.
If the question
guess,
is who do I keep, if the question is who do I keep between the two, I keep Mitroglou. But if you're talking about who do you start, I would say depending on the game and the opponent.
I think at this stage you need both in the squad for this particular campaign. I think with regards to how much they're worth, you've got a perfect direct comparison there because you've seen them both play. My point is, and yes, we should disregard the fee for Jimenez because of the selling club, etc. But if Jimenez is worth 18 million, and that's what his playing right says because it was 9 million euros for 50%, then Mitroglou is more than worth 7 million.
Yeah.
But that's how I would look at it.
But Mitroglou's coming from a team in the championship too, which lowers his value.
But he's coming from an English club, which doesn't necessarily lower their value. So
in the championship, I think that's
but
right?
Fulham, I think, paid 12 million for Ross McCormack when they're in the championship. So, well, exactly. There you go.
Here's what. This is not really a question. This is more of a statement. It's coming from somebody called @SteveSantos6, and he says we need.
That guy's a stalker.
He says we need @10CO10 in Lisboa asking why Grimaldo didn't play today.
Why 10CO10? Why, you trying to get me banned out of everywhere? Is that it?
He's already got a reputation, Steve. Come on, let's not get out of the get too carried away.
Steve, that's gonna be Steve's new favorite player now, the Barcelona boy.
Yeah, here's one for you, Patrick, from Meg at Lovers Out of Time. I heard Samaris didn't play all that well. Any truth to this? And will his future be impacted at Benfica?
Lots of truth to this. I think I touched upon this earlier. Overly keen to impress, didn't do so. Probably quite difficult with the personnel in the team as well today. But I think if this team selection holds, I don't see why it wouldn't, unless Fazer were to suffer another injury. I wouldn't be surprised to see Samaris leaving in the summer. Benfica are lucky in that Greece had one of the most disastrous European qualifying campaigns in the history of football. Because I think if Greece were playing this summer, Samaris would have left in January because he's not playing enough football. So Benfica do have another 6 months to see how much they can get out of him. But because of his stature and because of what he did last season, because of how much they paid for him, if he doesn't play too much more, he will leave in the summer.
You know, I'm being honest, and I know some of you guys probably think I'm making this up, but I'm being as honest could be. I was going to ask that question about 10 minutes ago. I was going to say, guys, is somebody's expendable? Is this guy, if somebody comes in at 10 million, do you sell him? But I was like, I already asked a bunch of questions about guys leaving, so I was like, I'll leave that one alone. And now you brought that up, and that's something I think Benfica should think about. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, I think that the biggest thing right here that you guys are forgetting is that Facer is quite injury prone and only be a matter of time.
Yeah, but you want
Samaris is a good age as well. He's a young guy.
We paid a lot for Samaris, 10 million. And he's just not going to let him go just like that, dude.
But if you ask me which one I want Facer on my team. The guy has been a professional for 8 years and he's won a championship 8 years. Okay, I want that guy on my team at least just for the good look charm. I don't care.
He's Ibrahimovic light in that respect. Yeah, it's not quite Italy and Spain.
Yeah, but
and France.
Ibrahimovic is scoring the goals that make that get you the titles.
It's Greece and Serbia and etc.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting stat, that one, and I think he could make it 9 this season. I think it may even have been 9, but there was something about did he play enough in one of those seasons to justify it? But it's a
Olympiacos
remarkable run.
Or Benfica?
I'm not sure which team it was, but I remember them reading about it in the Portuguese press. But the run is incredible, absolutely incredible.
Yeah. Here's one from Sergio Jaforst, and I think that we've discussed this. Once Gaetan and Salvio are 100%, does anyone know where Pizzi fits? So I mean, I think
right next to Rui Vitoria.
No, you don't think he'll sit Salvio and Gaetan? I don't know. It'll take a while for Salvio to come back.
Okay, but the question is when he's back. Forget about taking a while. The question was when he's back. When he's back, I think listen, again, he could have a setback and he could have a bunch of different things go wrong. He could lose his confidence, but if he's back to the old Salvio, he's gonna play. And you're gonna sit Sanchez?
Yeah.
No, you're not going to put Pizzi back in 8. I don't think you're going to put Pizzi back in the middle. I think we've shown that his best position is out wide, and unless Renato has his form continues to drop, I think that there's a good balance to the side. I think it depends how hypothetical the question is. Are we talking about?
Yeah, that wasn't a serious question.
Yeah. Are we talking about Salvio being 100% fit, or are we talking about Salvio being the player on top form that we know he can be? Because I still think that's a long way off.
Yeah, I think so too. Eric says he couldn't watch the game. Lindelof didn't look all that great. Apparently he turned down, was it Middlesbrough?
Yeah, they're interested.
That he turned down. I think that the biggest thing for these kids is that they're at a comfortable place despite not playing. I think a lot of people shun going to England, especially if you're not making a lot of money. And for a young kid like that, I very much doubt that they're offering him a lot of money. So I don't know what's going to go on with Lindelof, but I think that a loan to a Portuguese team will do him good. And if Benfica can cash in on selling him, that'll be great.
I'll be honest. When I heard the news that Middlesbrough was interested, I was excited. I would like to, because I mean he's gonna get experience out there. And say what you want about the championship level, it might not be Portugal, but every game's taken serious. There's fans are stacking the stadium. I think it'd be a good move for him. I don't know. I think it'd be good for his experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he'd come on a lot there. It's such a competitive league, the championship. Every game is hard. Every week there's 46 games.
And Middlesbrough is fighting for promotion too. They're one of the top teams.
You know, you'd be playing under Aita Karanka, who's a defensive player himself for Real Madrid. I mean, what a place to go and play for a guy who's worked with Jose Mourinho. You know.
Yeah. I think that money has to be right for these kids at least.
Bro, if you what money? If I'm getting the same amount of money to sit at Benfica,
there's no way he's earning more at Benfica than he would at Middlesbrough.
No, but forget the earning because he's going on loan, so his contract might just wash out. But that being said, if I'm getting $50 to sit in the stands at Stade de Luz, and I'm getting $50 to start at Middlesbrough, I'm gonna go play.
But again, it's not guaranteed that he's gonna play.
So why go get a guy? I don't know. Why go get a guy on loan?
I think they'd bring him in with a view to playing.
Absolutely. It's not like they have anything to gain from it.
People are having a lot of fun with Patrick in his hood. Eric Vesper, Darth Patrick, Mike DaCosta, the Sith Lord, and Sergio Jaforst wanted you to put the hood on and say, Renato, I am your father.
I am your father. So there you go.
So
don't say I'm not a good sport. Yeah.
Let's go. Let's see what we have here for questions. Sergio, again, is it time to find another young central back to plan for Luizão's succession, or Cesar / Lindelof are the answer to the future of the future?
Chris,
what was the question again?
If it's time to look for another young central back to foreseeing Luizão's departure.
100%. Absolutely.
Or do you think that Lindelof and Cesar
No.
are adequate enough?
No, neither one. And I wasn't crazy about Cesar. And I don't think George Jesus was crazy about him when he's trying to just get subbed off and Jesus trying to get your ass back on the field. No, I don't think I would like Benfica to go out and get something else. If it's up to me.
Right. Let's see what else we got here. Here's one from Diogo Reis. Given everything the team has gone through and the ground the team has made up in the standings, how do you feel about Rui Vitoria today?
I like him. I think for a first season, coming in, making a step up, something he's done consistently throughout his career, and he's humble. He's shown that in his press conferences. He's said that he has learned something at every club he's been at, and he continues to learn at Benfica. He's not going to shy away from that. He's not going to say he's got everything right. He knows himself he hasn't. But I think he's been quite fortunate in that it is quite a transitional season all across Portugal. Sporting have a new coach, and however many improvements they've made, we're starting to see now that they are struggling a bit. They just lost in Portimao earlier tonight. All right, is in the Taça Liga, they made changes, etc., but their form is starting to falter. I think this is the worst Porto side in recent memory. I've only been covering Portuguese football now for coming up to 12 months, but having seen Porto in the Champions League in previous years, they're unrecognisable to me. They seem to have lost a bit of their identity. So I think he has benefited from the other two not being as strong. Maybe you could have said that about Sporting, but normally you would have expected Porto to be ruthless. Certainly we've seen that in the past. So he has benefited from that. But 2 points off the top towards the end of January, I think you'd have probably taken that at the start of the season. And players coming back all the time. Champions League last 16 game coming up, an exciting one as well, because Benfica arguably got the best draw they could have got, finishing second to play Zenit as their group winners, or out of the Taça de Portugal, but looks like they're going to be in another semi-final of the Taça Liga. There's a lot to be optimistic about. The future's looking pretty bright, I would say.
Yeah, I think that, Diogo, my feeling is that he has definitely improved. The team has improved. I think these past few games, his reads of the game and his substitutions have been right on. I don't think he is where we need him to be right now, and to feel confident enough that Benfica can win this title with this team, but I think he's on the right path. I think that he has the team in gear now, and now you just have to bring the consistency. You got to play week in, week out. You got to defeat these little teams. You got to go into smaller pitches and difficult pitches and beat these teams. You definitely got to beat Porto at the Luz. If you want aspirations, you got to beat Porto at the Luz, because we got to go to the Alvalade, and God knows we've had our struggles with them this season. So, can he do it? I think he could do it. I think that he has the team on the right path, but it's not. I think it's not totally there yet. But I'm liking him more than I was liking him maybe 3-4 weeks ago.
It's a work in progress for me, man. And I think the biggest compliment I could give the guy, rather than be a hater, is, hey, team is winning. I guess I'll be pretty happy with that.
Yeah. Mike Da Costa, do you foresee a Sporting drop in form due to JJ's hardline coaching, along with Bruno Carvalho's absolute fandom as the president?
No, I think if they were going to drop points because of one or the other, I think it would be because of Burro de Carvalho. I don't think JJ. I think the guy is a tremendous coach. I don't want to go over JJ once again.
Their president creates unnecessary noise around the club, and I don't think it helps the players at all. But I think they'll continue to drop points against the smaller teams.
Yeah.
I think a draw may even be enough for Benfica at Alvalade. I think the most important thing is not losing that game.
Yeah, I think in years past we've seen some of JJ's teams just completely blown away by how much work they've put during the season, by how much the effort they have put in through the season, much hard work. I think that that's not the case with JJ's teams anymore, because he has learned from that. We used to see teams at the end of February and in the beginning of April absolutely destroyed physically, guys on the on the physio stable left and right because they just couldn't handle the physical exertion that was being asked of them from JJ and his technical staff. But I don't think that's the case anymore. I think that that this team, they could lose more points, yeah, but they could also go on a run. But definitely, I agree with you guys that all the noise that the president is making doesn't provide stability for the team. He's trying to protect the team by being the one that goes and fights every single battle, but all of this is creating a lot of noise around them. This thing with the referees, if I'm a referee, calling their games, and there's a foul that could go either way, and I have the resentment for this guy, I'm going to give the foul to the other team. It's as simple as that.
I'll say one thing about Bruno Carvalho. I heard a guy could take better PKs than William de Carvalho. I guess nobody got that. Patrick didn't get that.
Well, we got it.
Tá bem, esquece lá.
We got it. So I think that's it. Neil, yeah, I think the B team is eligible for relegation. That was Neil's question. If the B team is eligible for relegation, and yes, they are, and they need to do something quick with the B team. Maybe a change of coach is should be what's going on. I mean, a team with them. I know that there's a certain level of. I don't know. It's not the best atmosphere when you have players coming in and out of practice, players that are getting pulled to play with the A team. It's not the best atmosphere for a coach to work with the same players all the time. But with the talent that we have, Elder Cristóvão should be doing a lot better.
I agree. I don't think there's no excuse. To me, there's no excuse for them to be that bad. I mean, they haven't won a game in 5 or 6 games or something like that, some crazy stat.
Yeah.
To me, there's no excuse.
Yep, and I think that is that's all I got.
That's all, folks.
That's all, folks. We've had a great pod. Patrick was here with his hood and his Star Wars impersonation. We all enjoyed that, and somebody was asking if that's a DC United jumpsuit, and yes, it is.
It is,
and
yeah.
To answer your question, it was either the DC United jumpsuit or a quilt made by Grandma Kendrick, and he doesn't have the quilt available, so it had to be the DC United jumpsuit. It's the only thing that he has in Portugal to keep him warm.
Exactly. I've got more sports gear in Portugal than anywhere else, and it's all very functional gear. But yeah, DC United, a nice gift from a guy I know who works at the club.
There you go. I think that's about it. Chris, at 10CO10 is where you can find Chris on Twitter. Chris, anything else you wanted to add?
No, nothing else.
All right, vai com Deus.
Tá frio, pá.
Vai trabalhar, malandro.
Tá frio, pá. Peace out.
All right, and Patrick, thanks a lot, and congratulations to Steve and his wife and Cynthia and Mario for giving birth to their expected ones. I think Steve had a boy, and Cynthia and Mario had a girl.
Fantastic. Parabéns.
Eva.
Parabéns, miúdos.
Eva and Sebastian are the names.
Lovely.
2 more Benfiquistas for our family. So congratulations to them. I hope everyone is doing well. And let's get those kids as sócios right away. Pronto.
Forget sócios. Let them get to listen to Benfica podcast right away so they can smarten up.
At planetbenfica.co.uk is where you can find our friends over at Planet Benfica. I won't say their names. João and Manel is what we know them for. Oh, we know them for their real names, but that publicly João and Manel. I think that's about it. Next week we'll be back. We will look back at the Roca game that comes up this weekend. And we also have Moreirense for the League Cup a week from today. So probably the same deal as the game against Oriental today. That's going to happen probably during the day. And Benfica is basically almost in the second round, depending on the result from Moreirense and Nacional tomorrow. If they tie, I think that that Benfica is through. But Benfica still has to travel to Moreira, to Conches, to play Moreirense, and this comes a week after. No, actually, Benfica plays Moreirense in the League Cup, and then they travel again to Moreirense to play for the league. So lots of Moreirense coming up in League Cups and all that good stuff. So we're hoping that Sporting loses some more points so we could take advantage of it. I think that's about it. I think that's all I got. You've been listening to the Benfica podcast and talking to the Benfica podcast. Mr. Patrick Kendrick at Patrick Hendrick. There's only one K in there.
There's just one K, yeah.
And Atencio 10.
You'll find me. Cheers, guys. Thanks for having me on. I'll see you again soon.
Thanks a lot for your support, and we'll see you again next week. See you, everybody.